What's the schedule for you in the last night? Do you sleep properly or do you do the whole all night?
Yeah, I don't sleep.
Yeah. So 13th November को मेरा 12th का एग्जाम खत्म हो गया था. 14th November I decided that okay, I want to switch off my mobile phone for the next 1 month. If you just open that message, you don't realize that you end up wasting 5 to 10 minutes of your time or even more, and then you're like, अरे यार shit, मैंने तो बहुत time spend कर दिया यहाँ पे.
So one thing that a lot of students face with is understanding complex problems and concepts, which can lead to them being confused or them being irritated with the subject itself. So how do you deal with a complex or a hard to understand topic?
I'll revise the same subject multiple times. Studying at the end of the day is like a strategy game. It's like chess. You need to understand what you're good at. You need to understand what the end product is. You need to understand how much time you're left and accordingly prepare your battlefield.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. Hi Kushal, hi Tharun, how are you guys doing?
Hi Ishaan, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm glad that you are the moderator for this session. This is going to be one of the fun sessions, to be honest.
Absolutely. And Tharun, how are you?
It's been a while since we met, right? Like last time we met was in Bangalore or maybe in like Delhi. Anyways, like I'm super glad that you're here as a moderator, man. Like couldn't have got a better moderator, to be honest.
Absolutely. So let's start with the set of questions that I have for both of you people. I will start with some common questions that both of you can answer. So first of all, I want to ask, like, can you share what's your study pattern like when you're preparing for a competitive exam, right? And like what's like your strategy? How do you structure? What will you learn? When will you learn? And when will you revise? Any of you can start.
So thank you so much, Ishaan, for asking that question. Hi everyone. Hope all of you are doing well. I think in terms of structure, when it comes to studying for any competitive exam or any examination, be it like a professional examination in the future, I think it's pretty simple that I have this fixed approach of studying for 3 revisions. So for example, if I am studying for a particular subject, then after the first reading is over, I'll make sure that 2 more readings of that subject are done. And after a point of time, then it becomes easier for us to remember that in the examination. So with that approach, I think I have always been benefited, be it clearing my CA examinations or be it clearing the CFA exam and even the ACCA exam. And the best part is that when you revise it for the second and third time, I think it becomes automatically, or it helps you in order to remember the provisions or remember the content which is there in a much easier manner. For example, if you're revising it in the second or third time, you tend to highlight or you tend to read only those points which you had highlighted in the previous reading. So that is something which is important to crack all these competitive examinations. And to answer in terms of, let's say, what's your entire study, like what's your study pattern like, or for example, like what exactly do you do when you, let's say, study for these examinations? One of the key things which I feel a problem for all these youngsters or maybe all the people who give examination is a very like pure source of distraction which happens nowadays. So for example, even during study structure, when I had determined for my examination, I just ensured that I am away from all the sort of distractions. And once you're away from all the sorts of distractions, it becomes quite easier for you to stay focused and efficient. So I feel that studying effectively for 8 hours a day is much better than studying for 12 hours a day with 4 hours of distraction. So effective study is something which I believe in. Like for example, if you're putting it 8 hours for studying every day, then I think these 8 hours should be somewhat very, very fully focused and efficient, wherein you aren't distracted even for a single minute. On the other hand, if there's a person who's studying for 10-12 hours but with 2-3 hours of distraction, that doesn't make sense at all, because at the end of the day, like, the efficiency drops significantly. So that is something which I believe in, and this has helped me in order to crack some competitive examinations as well.
Wonderful, Kushal. Like definitely, I think focus is one thing that I have learned from you, if there's anything at all. Tarun.
Yeah. So that's I guess Kushal has covered everything, but I just want to highlight upon a few points, which is like studying is like very personal to everyone. Like people study in their own way. Some people prefer to study in the night. Some people prefer to study in the morning. Some people just listen to the class and then they just revise and then leave to the exam, and they still end up doing really good. Whereas some people, like, even after they listen to classes, they'll have to make notes, they'll have to go through it again and again. So I guess like most of the things that we do, even studying is one thing which a person has to figure out by himself. Like what exactly works for me, what exactly doesn't work for me. But there are a couple of guidelines which really work. For example, the first thing which you have to know is like, what kind of exam are you preparing for? Is it a competitive exam? Is it just a semester exam? See, if it's like a semester exam, if it's not the game which I'm playing, if my game is something different, in that case, I can just play safe. I can just use the Pareto principle, something like 80-20 rule. I can just study for like 4 hours and then still end up scoring good in my semester examinations, where I don't actually need to like end up scoring really 9.5 or something like that. But if it's like a competitive exam, which Kushal has like really rocked and like, so in that case, a person has to like plan out things in a very particular way. The first step, which according to me, like the only thing which I've been doing since the last 22 years is nothing but studying, just going to the class, coming back, studying, appearing exams, coming back. Like that has been my routine. And one main thing which I want to highlight upon, which a lot of people miss upon, is you need to actually know what are you preparing for. If you're actually preparing for the exam, then first go through the examination pattern. Go through the syllabus. You need to know the syllabus actually really well in order to mold your preparation in that way. And then the next step would be like analyze the time that you have, and don't spread out your entire preparation throughout the day. Maybe like throughout the timeline. For example, imagine you have like 100 days to prepare for an exam. So give a gap of like 20 days, and now prepare as if you are only left with 80 days. And the last 20 days are for like something else. So now you have your 80 days. So your preparation has to be done in this. And there are different ways of preparing for different things. For example, if it's a physics examination, I prepare for it in a different way. I don't actually need a lot of revisions. Instead, I'd use like more active recall, or like more paper solving, like practicing problems. But if it's more like inorganic chemistry or something like that, then I would definitely not practice as many problems. Instead, I'll actually follow the trick which Kushal has mentioned before, which is like I'll revise the same subject multiple times. So studying at the end of the day is like a strategy game. It's like chess. You need to understand what you're good at. You need to understand what the end product is. You need to understand how much time you're left, and accordingly, prepare your battlefield, prepare your entire maybe like the schedule and all. So that is the thing which I want to say.
Wonderful. You just made it sound like a Clash of Clans game or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So, many of the students tend to study at the last moment. So what, according to both of you, is that last moment? Is it the last week? Is it the last month? Is it the last night?
So I think in terms of last moment studies, right, like I have been a very, very big believer of, let's say, studying very, very efficiently in the last few months of your examination. Now, this is again in the context of CA exams, because like there's a rigorous study of last 3.5 months or 4.5 months which is involved. So I think studying at the last moment, at least for these kind of examinations like CA, CFA, etc., I think last 1 month or last 2 months would be like a sufficient period of time in order to crack these examinations. Apart from that, what I feel is, let's say people who, let's say, just study for the last time, they're not doing anything for the entire 1 year, 2 years, etc., and then they're just they wake up all of a sudden and they're like, "Arey, exams are rahe, and abhi chalo ek raat hai, to ek raat mein pura pad lete." I think that approach is a flawed approach, to be honest, not because of the fact that even if they clear the exam, they won't get a job, not that reason, but the main point is that you're not, let's say, understanding anything. You're just reading for the sake of doing it, right? For example, I'll be very frank and upfront, okay? So this examination called as ACC, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. This is nothing but CA of UK. So basically, I just took 2-3 days in order to clear all the 4 levels of this examination. But trust me, when I, let's say, go back, or maybe in hindsight, when I see, it's like कि वो ठीक है मैंने पढ़ने के लिए पढ़ लिया था, but it was more on the lines कि I just read and I just gave the exam for the sake of giving it. So I think this approach which I also adopted, it was because of lack of time. I think this is an excuse which I can give because I was working at Aditya Birla Group. But the point is that that's a flawed approach because I don't even remember, to be honest, कि क्या सिखाया था or maybe what the concepts were. If you're really passionate about a subject, or if you're really, let's say, liking what is being taught, what are some skills you're developing, that's a better approach. And if you're enjoying reading that particular subject, then I think it's easier for you to start it a few months before the examination as well. So that is something which I've always followed. And in fact, I had interviewed Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani recently on my YouTube channel. He's the chairman of Hiranandani Group, which is a very big real estate group in Bombay. So he mentioned this beautiful fact that whenever you're giving any examination, don't think it as a challenge, or don't think that, okay, you have to climb the Himalayas, or you have to just, like this is a very big challenge for you. Instead, you should think in this way, that this is the Himalayas I have to climb and I am just made for this particular thing. So changing the mindset is very crucial and very important. And I think, like this mindset of, let's say, this is the Himalayas which I have to climb, or this mindset of, let's say, this is the challenge which I'm going to love at the end of the day. With this mindset, it becomes quite easier to, let's say, approach any sort of examination. So there's no strict answer as such, like whether it's a last night, last month, or last week in terms of the examination, but it depends from subject to subject or paper to paper. But all I can say is that that's a flawed approach, and I think you should just enjoy, you should just learn whatever you are learning passionately so that you can apply that in your practical life after a point of time.
Awesome. Very well said. Tharun, what do you think?
So I kind of specialize in this aspect, right? Like I've been making a lot of videos on studying, one night before the exam, 2 nights before the exam, and giving the exams here. At least in IIT Kharagpur, the semester exams. I am like an integrated course, which is mechanical engineering plus specialization in manufacturing. But the career direction which I was about to choose are not aligned with this. So all I actually needed to do in this aspect is like just pass these exams and get a degree out of it. So at the end of the day, when I have to answer this question, is it right to prepare for the exam during the last day or not? It actually matters ki, how much is the exam important for you, first aspect, and whatever are you studying at that point of time, will this add to your life in any possible way going forward? For example, let's just take an example of my, 2 exams that I've written, 2 exams that I wrote in my, life. First one, IIT JEE. And the second one are like, imagine semester examinations. So first one, IIT JEE. So in some or the other way, these subjects, these concepts, the core concepts which I study in IIT JEE are going to be useful for me throughout the engineering, if I might have chosen. So that's the first aspect. And second aspect is like my rank in IIT JEE would define my future, because I would be concentrating on it for like 2 straight years, right? So I can't take risk over there. So in that place, in that scenario, studying just like 1 day or like 2 days before the examination, going for the examination is not at all like the proper way, because like this game, whatever I'm playing is very important for me. And the second thing, it's going to impact my life in a lot of ways. Now imagine the same approach goes to semester examination. I don't actually need to, score really good in my semester exams. I just need to get good, something like average marks over here, and even that would be like fine. So it's just that it depends on the priority. Okay, how much is the exam important for you? How much is it going to be useful for you? If it's IIT JEE, you can't crack it in like a 1-2 days cover preparation, obviously. People spend 2 years, 3 years and still end up like getting messed up in that. But if it's just like semester examinations or something like that in college, when you come here, you can pretty much do it in like 1-2 days. Like, and also over here also, if you consider this 80-20 rule, it's actually very important. Like you can spend either 7 days or just 2 days and end up scoring same amount of marks in the examination. So it's this. And also while you're preparing for any kind of examination, during the last 2 days, your contacts with people who are into this education a lot should be quite more aggressive, if I have to say. If you don't have contact, for example, if you don't have some friends who go to class each and every day, who make perfect notes for me so that in the last day I can just go there and take their snatched notes from there and like start studying. If I don't have them, I'll definitely fail in my examinations, right? So I just have to say that preparing for any kind of examination during the last 2 days, it's again, it depends upon what kind of examination are you preparing for, and how much is this exam going to be important for you in the long run. But if you just put examinations aside, and if you consider just studying, or if you consider just learning something, or in quite sense like education, in that case, distributing even number of hours every single day is like the best possible thing that you can do, because this also adds up to the retention that people have. We are not built to just by heart everything in the same day and like remember it throughout our life. We are human beings, so it's like 2 hours every single day is better than 8 hours on a single day.
Let's ask Ishan this question. When you were at BITS Pilani Goa campus, when you used to study like last night or last week or last month?
I used to study after the examination.
I was about to study, so I remember this one time I had a prop stats exam, probability statistics. Just before that, I was just too bored with the exam syllabus, so I decided why not start a podcast, and that's how everything started. But honestly, for me, it has been more like the last week has been the best way to start studying and learn all the concepts. But yeah, obviously last day is just too much pressure for me particularly. But Kushal and Tharun, I want to know from you, what's the schedule for you in the last night? Do you sleep properly, or do you do the whole all-nighter? Tharun, you've shared your perspective, but Kushal, what do you think?
So basically, I think it's very important to let's say, on the examination day itself, for example, talking about the CA finals exam, right? So there are 8 papers in total, and alternate days the examinations used to happen. So for example, if the first paper is on 1st of November, the second is going to be on 3rd, then 5th, 7th, 9th. So this is the schedule for the 16 days of the examination. So what I used to do is that I used to sleep for let's say 5 or 6 hours on the examination day. For example, if it's the 1st of November, then I'll just sleep for like 5-6 hours the previous night. I'll wake up at let's say 5 a.m. and then study for the entire day till let's say 1 p.m. and the paper starts at 2 p.m. itself. And then while coming back on 1st of November, once the paper is over at 5 p.m., I used to come back home and I used to sleep early by 7:30, 8 p.m. maximum, and then I used to wake up at 5 a.m. again. So if you calculate the average, it's like I'm sleeping for let's say 9 plus 5, 14 upon 2, 7 hours on an average each day for those 16 days period. So the reason why I followed this strategy was because if I am having more time or if I am studying more on the day of examination, at least I would be able to recall some of the other pointers if that topic comes in the examination. That was the one primary reason. And the second reason of let's say sleeping for 9 hours the next day is because I wanted to cover up on my sleep. So Ishan, like as you know, right, like I sleep a lot and I at least require like 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. So today also when I'm speaking right now, today also I sleep for like 8.5 hours every night. So that was the reason I thought that in order to keep that balance, I'll need to sleep for more number of hours after the paper is over, because next day is holiday itself. And it was difficult for me also to study once I was back from the examination. So that was the routine like. And to be honest, I am more of a morning person. Like I used to wake up at 5 a.m. and I think studying again, like as Tharun said, right, like it depends from person to person. Like whether you're a morning person or night person, whenever you want to study, you can. There's no right or wrong answer to, let's say, if you're a morning person, then only you'll be able to clear the examination. It's not like that. It completely depends from person to person. And what I feel is that why morning worked for me was because whenever I used to study with fresh mind or fresh brain in the morning after waking up, I think the efficiency was manifold when it comes to memorizing anything or when it comes to understanding any new concept. So that was the entire routine when it comes to the day of examination. But at the same time, I'd like to mention that sleep is, I think, quite important if it's a long stretched examination. If let's say it's an examination like a CA where you have to give papers for 16 long days of 8 papers, then I think sleep is quite important, because you can't just sacrifice your sleep and mess up in the examinations. But at the same time, if it's a one-day paper, like for example, CFA examination, right? For CFA, I just had to go to the center only for one day. So I used to sleep for lesser number of hours, like 4 or 5. And I used to give the examination, and once the exam was over, I used to sleep for a good 10-12 hours because I was relaxed after the paper was over. So again, it depends on which kind of examination you are giving, but the only point which I am trying to say is that never ever sacrifice your entire sleep for a long period of time. One day or one night is okay, but at the same time, like doing it for a regular consecutive period is not recommended in my opinion.
Absolutely. I know that Kushal sleeps like a little kid whenever he is tired and all. So, one thing that a lot of students face with is understanding complex problems and concepts, right? Which can lead to them being confused or them being irritated with the subject itself. So how do you deal with a complex or a hard to understand topic? Do you completely say no to it and just focus on the majority part, which is normal or easy to understand, or do you go head on with it and focus on that as well?
That's a good question actually. Just to answer that question, I feel that a lot of times you're going to encounter such problems where you're going to have a lot of difficult questions. What is more important is to understand that how important or how critical is that particular question or is that syllabus in the examination. Whether you think that it's going to be asked, whether you think that it's going to be tested regularly or rigorously, then I think it's pretty important to tackle that kind of a problem. For example, let's say in the finance community, right, there's a topic of weighted average cost of capital. There's a topic of valuations as well. Now, valuations of private entities. That's a fairly complicated approach where you have to make a lot of assumptions in terms of how do you value a private entity, right? Because there is not a lot of data available. For example, for a listed entity which is listed on the stock markets, you get a lot of public data because as per SEBI, as per all the listing obligation and disclosure requirements, they have to upload their annual reports, they have to upload their investor presentations on their website on a quarterly or an annual basis. So you get a lot of data, but it's not possible in the case of private companies. So these are some topics or these are some challenges which I also faced when I was giving the CA and CFA examination. But to be honest, this was so interesting or it was so challenging at the same time that I felt that if I am able to solve this problem, if I'm able to, let's say, tackle this challenge at this point of time, I think it will help me only to develop some skill set of problem solving approach, of having a problem solving mindset. For example, if you give up and if you're like, yaar, ye to bahut difficult hai, mujhse hone hi nahi wala hai, and I'll just skip this topic and I'll focus on the most important ones or the easy ones where I am confident about. Again, that's a fair approach as far as you are confident that you will be able to clear those examinations with those concepts which you have prepared for. At the same time, if you're passionate to learn something new, and if you think that, okay, this is very challenging, but okay, I am going to solve this anyhow, that is a better approach, and chances of you clearing the examination would be higher in that approach as compared to the previous one where you are just ignoring the difficult topics as well. Now, to answer your question on how do you break this down, or let's say how do you understand, today in a world of internet, Ishan, even you know that it's very, very simple in order to learn any new thing through, let's say, YouTube, or through, let's say, any platform, any content platform as well. There's like abundance of information which is available. Even if you don't understand any particular topic, you can easily Google research on your own. You can watch some YouTube videos. You'll get bunch of YouTube videos, and you will be able to learn that problem. You will be able to solve that problem by yourself only if you have that curiosity to learn more and understand more. So I think it's not that difficult to understand a new concept today. For like a very simple example, I'm not bragging as such, but okay, for my CFA and ACCA examination, I did not join coaching classes at all because I knew that these topics I'll be able to learn by myself. Or if, let's say, if I watch some YouTube videos, I think I'll be able to solve those questions. And with that mindset, I think I was able to figure out some ways of solving those questions, which helped me clear the examinations as well. The best advantage of this approach is that when you go for a job, or even if you start entrepreneurial journey in the future, you already are ready with a problem solving mindset. And I think that's one of the best traits to have, irrespective of the fact that you want to go to a job or you want to become an entrepreneur. Even if you go to a job, you will be hired like with a very good pay, and you will be promoted very early if you have that problem solving mindset. And even if you get into entrepreneurship, that's what entrepreneurship is all about. You have to solve problems on a regular basis. So I think this trait of curiosity and this trait of, let's say, solving the problems on your own passionately, and then having that satisfaction that, okay, I've solved this particular problem, this mindset is going to help you as compared to the previous one where you're just giving up on the challenging questions.
Makes sense. Tharun, what do you think?
So then when I was preparing for JEE again, there used to be one lecturer who used to tell us with this, like, who used to bombard us with this dialogue, right? And this was right before our examination. He used to be like, when like rank matters more than the knowledge that you have, then no one cares about how difficult the question you're solving. Like, it doesn't matter if an easy question and a difficult question in the examination have same weightage, like 4 marks each. No one's going to ask you, oh bro, did you solve this question, the difficult question in the examination? At the end of the day, they're just going to ask you like how many marks you got in the examination. So that's always there. And like, I guess this is one of the, negative aspects of Indian education system. But if you have to play it smartly, in that case, like this is like the best way that you can do. Like, if it's a very difficult topic, and if you're going to take a lot of time while solving the examination or while preparing right now, and if you think and if you truly believe that you can spend the same amount of time to score well, to score much better than this, then it is very optimum for you to go with the easy topics. But there's a one caveat for this. It's that a person who is able to solve more difficult questions in the examination will also be able to will also be having like a higher thinking capability in his personal life. And hence he would be able to take better decisions in his life. So there are like, win and negative aspects in both. But yeah, like if you just have to score well in the examination, then it's as easy as saying go with the easy topics first.
Right. I think this is the big problem that I faced when I was having my IIT JEE exam. The mistake I made was that I was not able to distinguish if this is an easy problem or if this is a hard problem. And I was wasting time on solving the hard problem, while in the same time I could have solved 2 easier problems.
I think every problem would be easier for you as far as your mindset is concerned. I think every problem would be easy for you, no?
No, back then, that's like 4 years ago. Back then I didn't know much about life.
Oh.
And then I met Kushal and I gained enlightenment.
I mean, every problem might be easier for him, but some problems take a lot more time to solve.
Yeah, you know it better, right? Like, Tharun, you know it because you've been through that whole phase. Okay, I want to ask a question to Tharun now that you made a video in which you talked about how you finished tried to finish your 2-month syllabus in 2 days, right? Like, were you successful with that? What was the practical solution, and what do you think? Is that something that people should try to attempt to do? What do you think?
Honestly, I had to do it. I mean, it was necessary. But if I have to like replay it back and like go through the journey again, then I guess I would have gone to a couple of classes and like studied a bit earlier. But in that case, I don't regret it, right? Like, because 2 days and whatever people study in like 2 months of time, like I was able to cover it up. Like, I got a grade of B, which is which is not great. Like first one is like EX and then we have A and then is like, so it's like 8 on 10, which is still not bad. And if again, this goes back to the first question which I answered, which is like, it depends upon how much is this exam going to affect your life? How much is this exam important for you? So at that point of time, I was able to take the risk, like, theek hai, though then study, you will be able to like crack the examination. And I was also able to do it because I had like a couple of my friends who regularly used to go to classes. So it becomes a lot more easier when you have these kind of friends, right? Because if you have any doubt, it's like a proper guide just sitting in front of you and he would be explaining you. But in any other case, I wouldn't have done it again. I would not recommend the same to anyone else. I mean, if you might have done a lot, if you might have done, 2 days preparation or 1 day preparation a lot of times in your life, then yeah, you can. But if it's an important examination for you, then you should not do it. It's not the recommended way.
Definitely. No, I remember when I was in school, right? So I used to memorize all of the answers of social studies questions 2 days before. So I just had the 2-day gap and I used to learn everything in that time and then just, vomit it in the paper and then just forget about it. So we've all been through that phase. We all know that it is advisable to take study breaks and it can help you be more productive and remember everything in a better format. But the problem is that whenever we take a study break, you take it for 10 minutes, it turns out to be an hour-long break in which you're just, scrolling on social media or looking at some news or playing some game. So my first question is like, how long should the study break be, Tharun? And secondly, what should you do? Like what activities you can do that would rejuvenate you to come back stronger and, have focus better?
Like initially when I started out, like studying, it used to be like 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes. But with time, what I actually understood is 25 minutes is not actually enough for me to like properly get into the flow state. So it actually depends upon what kind of examination that you're preparing again. Like some people who are preparing for medical, some MBBS examinations, they actually need to study for like a long hours. They don't it's not quite advisable for them to just sit for 25 minutes and then take a break of 5 minutes. So right now I'm following a streak like 45 minutes and 5 minutes system. It's like I work for 45 minutes and then take a break of like 5 minutes or like 10 minutes. And the most like usually I just go out. I just roam around like 5 minutes. I don't talk. Maybe I talk with a couple of people, but I generally prefer not to use my phone in between because one notification, all this social media, it'll just divert you for the next hour, 1 hour at least. And also in this 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I don't usually prefer things which kind of attack me a lot, like which don't distract me a lot. Maybe in the 5 minutes I can do like 20 push-ups and then come back. So this is one kind of thing. You can just go drink some water, come back, or maybe you can just go. Like talk to your friend about the same thing again, because all of us before the examination we would be preparing for the examination itself. So it's usually going out, drinking water. It's usually kind of doing some push-ups or maybe talking to a couple of friends who are also studying the same subject at that point of time. That's what I usually do in the breaks, and that's what has actually worked out for me. Like in any possible case, if I take out my phone and start using social media, then gone. Like the next 1-2 hours. It's gone. It's actually gone. So I don't prefer. I usually lock my phone in like my cupboard usually when I have my examination the next day.
Got it. Kushal, I have a question for you, and that is, you've talked about how when you were preparing and you were focused on studying.
CFA level 3? No, not on CFA level 3.
Level 2.
CFA level 3 I had switched off for 14 days. CA finals 4.5 months.
Got it. So you were able to prevent that urge to pick up the phone and look at social media or talk to your friend on, all of that. How did you do that? It must have been challenging, right? Because I know I have a screen time of over 7 to 8 hours every single day. And it's tempting to just go open up Instagram or any other app and just check what's happening out there.
Yeah, I think it was easier that time because I didn't used to follow Ishan Sharma on Instagram and YouTube. So, there was no creator who I used to follow specifically. All right, on a serious note, I think, it's a very difficult situation, to be honest, when let's say you are used to using mobile phone every single day and all of a sudden you're like that, you have decided that, okay, you don't want to use it for the next 4.5 months. Trust me, it's difficult, but at the same time, it's very, very refreshing, or it's very, very, peaceful also at the same time. So let me explain. So basically, the reason I switched off my mobile phone, as Tharun also mentioned, right? Like if you, let's say, get any notification of Snapchat, of WhatsApp, of let's say Instagram or any social media application, if you just end up scrolling, if you just open that message, you don't realize that you end up wasting 5 to 10 minutes of your time or even more. And then you're like, "Arey yaar, shit, मैंने तो बहुत time spend कर दिया यहाँ पे." That used to happen with me, and this was like one of the major sources of distraction that that was not letting me concentrate on my main goal of clearing the examination. So one fine day I was like कि बहुत ज़्यादा distraction हो रहा है, and this was back in 2015 when I was giving my CA foundation examination. So 13th November को मेरा 12th का exam खत्म हो गया था. So I used to follow IGCSE A levels curriculum. That's why my 12th happened in November. 14th November, I decided that okay, I want to switch off my mobile phone for the next 1 month until I give my CA foundation examination. And for the next 1 month, let's see how the life is without mobile phone. I followed that routine strictly for 1 month, and it was so peaceful that after like opening my mobile phone and after opening the WhatsApp messages and all, I was replying to everyone that okay, I had switched off my mobile phone, and like this is something which I really like to do. And then I was replying, I did not tell anyone that I'm going to switch off, and all of my friends and everyone was like, they were sending messages and they were like, ये reply नहीं कर रहा है, क्या हो गया? And then they used to call me on landline, and my mom or my sister used to pick up and they used to tell कि उसका mobile बंद है, तो अभी landline पे ही call करना पड़ेगा. So the urge, I think the urge to not open is because of the fact that I had this clear mindset or clear goal of clearing the examination. So even for 1 month is okay, but 4.5 months is too much for your CA finals, right? Like 4.5 months without a mobile phone. I think that was very, very like challenging but equally peaceful at the same time. And trust me, like in that period, what happens is that this is a quote which I regularly use. In that period, I didn't used to talk to anyone for 4.5 months. I mean, to put it differently, it was like the lesser the number of people you talk to, the more peaceful your life becomes, because you're not fighting with anyone, you're not having arguments with anyone, you're just focusing on your academics, and it's as if you and the books only exist in this particular planet. This might sound a little nerdy, but at the end of the day, that was the ultimate goal. And I used to lock myself in my room itself for 2 hours. And what I used to do is that I used to take a break of 5 minutes after 55 minutes. So 55 minutes ho gaye, 5 minutes ka break. Again 55 minutes studying, and then I used to take a long break of 20 to 30 minutes. And in those break time itself, I used to ensure that I'm doing something which is not distracting me. For example, I wouldn't watch any movie which will distract me and which I'll think of while I'm studying the next time as well. So I used to, let's say, talk to my parents. I used to, let's say, go out on a walk, go out for a jog. I used to go for cycling. I used to go for a drive for 15 minutes. So these kind of activities which will just refresh my mind from top to bottom. And that was something which really helped me. So I think staying away from all sorts of distraction is very, very important during your examinations period.
When Kushal might have like switched off his phone for like 4 or 5 months, it might have been like peaceful for him, but it might have been scary for his like close friends. They were like, "Hello Kushal, are you dead? Hello Kushal, hey, why are you not replying? Please reply."
No, he does
Then
that
they
right now as well, so it's not much of a difference.
Yeah. And then people end up calling his parents and be like, "Is Kushal को कुछ हो गया क्या?" नहीं बाबा, prepare कर रहे हैं exam के लिए.
Right. Kushal, during the last months of your exam, right? Like you talked about how you were taking breaks, but what was your overall schedule like? What was like your day in the life? How much time did you dedicate to studying? How much time did you dedicate to clicking pictures in Lodha Park? What did you do exactly that would avoid things that you did? What did you do that helped you to maximize your performance exactly?
So I'll tell you, like I shifted to Lodha Park, I think 9 months back. So back when I was studying, I had no pictures, or I had no, let's say, this intention of shifting here as such. So I think on a serious note, the schedule was very strict as such. I used to wake up at 5 a.m. sharp. I used to meditate for 15-20 minutes and freshen up. And I used to start my day at 5:30 a.m. 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. was the first slot. So as I mentioned, right, I used to study in slots of 2 hours, and there used to be 6 slots of 2 hours each. So 5:30 to 7:30 used to be my first slot. Then I used to, let's say, go for breakfast, go for a shower, take a bath, and then come back and then study again from 8:30 to 10:30. This is the second slot. 10:30 to 11:30, I used to solve one of my friend's doubts who was very close to me, and I wanted him also to clear the examination. So I used to ensure that आधा घंटा तो भी मैं उसको रोज दूंगा while having like the second round of breakfast. So I used to have 2 rounds of breakfast, one at 8 o'clock and one at 10:30 a.m. Then after having that, 11:30 to 1:30 was the third slot. 1:30 sharp, I used to have my lunch with my mom and dad. My dad used to come to my home at 1:30 p.m. sharp, like from his office. So all 3 of us used to have lunch together. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. was the fourth slot, which is like 8 hours completing now. Then 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. So 4 to 4:30, I used to go to the temple, where I used to just take blessings from the Guru Maharaj who are there in my religion. I'm a Jain, so there are like a lot of saints who are there in our religion. 4:30 to 5 p.m. I used to go for a jog. 5 to 5:30, I used to have my evening snacks. 5:30 to 7:30, again this was the 5th slot, so now 10 hours हो गए पढ़ाई के. 7:30 to 8 I used to have my dinner, and then 8 to 10 again 2 hours के last slot of studying for like 2 hours. So basically 10 p.m. ko, and then I used to sleep sharp. So 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. I used to sleep for 7 hours during my CA finals leave. So I think this was the routine which I had followed strictly. And if I can share 2 anecdotes, one is that once my mom did not give me breakfast at 8:15 a.m. 8:15 was the time of my breakfast, and I got disappointed and I got angry, and I was like कि मैं अभी second round of breakfast पे आऊँगा, अभी मेरे को पढ़ाई करने जाना है वापस. So hungry with a hungry stomach, I just went back and I studied for 2 hours, and then I went for the second round at 10:30 a.m. And my mom was feeling very upset, of course, कि यार मैंने थोड़ा late कर दिया. And the second anecdote which I wanted to share was that I'm very lucky when it comes to, let's say, having small guidance or maybe small things in my life. For example, my maid used to come at 8:15 a.m. sharp because I used to take a break at that point of time. She used to clean the entire room in a span of 15 minutes itself. The milkman used to come at 7 a.m. sharp so that I can have fresh milk in the morning. And my parents, like my mom and dad, they were very, very supportive, and like no guest used to come inside my house, etc. for 4 months. I think all these small things have really, really helped me in order to get the academic success. So as it is rightly said, a drop of water is worthless, but the zillions of drops make the ocean. So I think these are like some zillions of drops which have helped me make my ocean.
My God, that is a whole structure and a system in itself. But here are some questions that I want from both of you to answer. So, like Tharun has talked about some mental models, active recall, Pomodoro technique, you've talked about take 5 minutes break after 45 minutes of work. What are some other models that you can use, right? Like we see a lot of models that are popularized on multiple mediums like books and videos. And how can you use them to make it more productive for you to study? What do you think, both of you?
One thing which has been like really useful for me, like I'm not so good at like remembering things, right? Like growing up, I always loved physics. So it's like not so formulas, just read the question, understand what's going around and solve the question. So that's what I always used to love. But there are some concepts, some subjects where you actually need to mug up a lot of things, right? Like for example, in organic chemistry or something like that. So for these kind of things, instead of reading the same thing again, which is also one good thing, what I started to do in the later half is like, I tried to make questions from the same. So instead of remembering the statement, so I used to like take out the list of questions that I made and I used to answer them. And this is again the theory of active recall itself. But yeah, like that was one thing which was like really useful for me to remember like some things in like while preparing for examinations. So that was always there. And yeah, that is it. I don't like really ponder upon much more.
Kushal, any thoughts?
No, definitely. I think, in terms of memorization and all, right, like it's very, very crucial to, let's say, write it down on a separate piece of paper. As far as statistics or as far as science is concerned, I think it's proven, right? Like if you're writing something, it's as good as reading it 6 times. And if you're writing something on a piece of paper, you're at the same time reading and there's a physical activity of writing, so you don't tend to fall asleep. I think this was one technique which I used for all the theoretical subjects when I had like given my examination, and this really helped me in order to memorize. I used to write the section numbers. So in laws and in income tax provisions and all, there are a lot of section numbers which you have to memorize in your examination. So I used to write them on a piece of paper every morning at 5:30 a.m. for half an hour. I used to read the section name and section number, and I didn't used to memorize them, but automatically it got memorized because I used to read them regularly for half an hour every morning. That is something which I followed. The second thing which I followed in order to stay away from all sorts of distractions is basically the fact that I use this technique. Like whenever I used to have any outside noise, there's this instrumental music on YouTube called as Evening Piano Waves, and I used to listen. It's a 3 hour 30 minutes long video, and it has like a very soothing music of waves and all, like water waves and all, as if you're sitting in a beach and there are a lot of water waves which are coming. So I used to listen that on my headphones, and this used to be very, very soothing and motivating for me also to study anything. So I used to do this sometimes in the evening whenever I used to get bored, or sometimes in the afternoon whenever I used to feel sleepy, so that at least I'm on track. And I used to do it if, let's say, in an emergency case, or let's say in a rare case, if someone has come outside the house and if there is slight noise, if there's some function and all, then I used to use the headphones and I used to like study or listen to this instrumental music. One key advice which I'd like to give to everyone is that on Spotify or on YouTube Music, there is this playlist called as white noise for studying. White noise. The main reason of bringing this playlist, or the main agenda of making this playlist, is you can start this playlist, or you can just listen them on your headphones while studying, and automatically you will feel that you are just very efficient and you are very focused while studying. and you won't have any external distractions, any external disturbance at all. For example, if let's say you're sleeping, right, वो fan का continuous आवाज आता है, right, constantly when you're sleeping at night. So you don't get distracted because this is a constant sound which is going on. So similarly, white noise for studying playlist में भी ऐसा बना है कि constant sound आता है, which makes you feel soothing and which makes you feel more comfortable. And this will help you in order to stay focused and efficient. And I think these are like 2 techniques which I followed in order to, like memorize and just stay focused while studying effectively.
This is very insightful. I would love to check out this as well.
This white noise theory is like quite interesting, right? Like human brain is perceptible to changes that are made, right? For example, if you live in a room of like 26 degrees centigrade and immediately it changes to 30 degrees. So you find a difference and human brain notices a change. And while you're listening to this white noise, so what exactly happens is like your brain, like at least in the beginning, it feels that just there's some noise. But as time continues, this is like new normal. But what it also does is that, so with time what happens with after like 5 minutes or like 10 minutes, you won't feel as if like white noise is going on. There's obviously like you're listening to white, like the noise kind of noise, but that becomes your new normal.
Correct.
And then all the external disturbances like maybe milkman, maybe your maid or this kind of people, their waves, their sound waves, they get compressed, like they get overcome by this white noise layers. So that's actually useful. Like I've been using this white noise since I've come to college, and it has been actually useful. Yeah.
We'll have to definitely check that out. Thank you so much for joining both of you and sharing your insights.